Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, My Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday. We are talking about probably the nicest guy in Hollywood, the one man that we all want to be our husband, Mr. Keanu Reeves. Y'all, his love life has been so tragic, like more tragic than I would have ever imagined. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already. And I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here and we can hang out together again. I definitely do not want you forgetting all about me. Also, my eye makeup is done already, y'all. It just turned out so pretty. I don't know what to do with myself. I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you are interested. I'll have the link for that as well as all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff listed in the description box below, along with a full product list of everything that I'm going to be using in today's video. I don't usually talk too awful much about the makeup that I'm using during these videos. I usually get pretty wrapped up in the story, but of course, if you have any questions about what I used or how I used it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Also, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should go do that. I post fun content literally every single day. And if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. All right, my Loverlies, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the love story. If you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I sit here, I tell you a love story, and I do my makeup at the same time. Y'all, if you see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. There's not too many for today's video. I don't think it should be an extra long video, but I do like to talk, so might as well go ahead and get comfy, get cozy, get you a big old glass of something to drink, maybe even a snack, and let's go ahead and just dive into it. I like to start off talking about each half of the whole and then dive into the couple together. We're going to start with Mr. Keanu because that's pretty much who this whole story kind of revolves around. We're just talking about his love life in general. Now, you would assume that because he was so very popular that he would have been a little bit of a playboy. That just was not the case. Y'all, every single thing I learned about this man through researching for today's video made me fall deeper and deeper in love with him. Each fact I learned just reaffirmed to me that he really is just an amazing freaking human being, and I love him so very much. So, Mr. Keanu Reeves. He was born Keanu Charles Reeves on September 2nd, 1964. Now, some of his best known roles include Speed with Sandra Bullock. We all remember that one. He was also in The Matrix, which was absolutely gigantic for his career. He was in The Devil's Advocate or something like that? You know which one I'm talking about. Constantine as well. He's been in a ton. Of course, also John Wick is probably his most recent franchise, and I think there's 3 or 4 videos in that series at this point. My husband and I have watched every single movie. If you've never seen the John Wick movies, they are so good. They're so fantastic. And the thing about it is he does like almost 90%, 99% of his own stunts and stuff. He really studies martial arts, things like that. They're just good. And he plays such a baddie. He plays such a baddie in those movies. And also, some of the drama we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video really ties in to that role in specific. So we're going to get into it. So, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. That one's a really, really old one. One of his Point Break was another one as well. Y'all, he's been in so many freaking movies. His career has spanned decades, and he has worked consistently throughout that entire time. I'm not exactly sure how many movies he has under his belt. If I can find out, I'll pop it up on the screen here. But y'all, just a prolific career. Like, just, so good. He was actually born in Beirut, Lebanon, which was something I had no idea. Now, I think when it comes to Keanu, I think his ethnicity is a little bit ambiguous, right? Because, I think he looks like he might be something other than just plain old Caucasian, but you never know. So I found out when I was doing the research, he is actually native Hawaiian, he's Chinese, he's all kinds of things. He's just a big old melting pot of all kinds of beautiful, honestly. So, he was born in Beirut, Lebanon. His mother, Patricia Taylor, was a costume designer and also a performer. And she was kind of working in Beirut when she met his father. Now, his father is a man by the name of Samuel Nolan Reeves Jr., and he is a native Hawaiian. He is a Native American Hawaiian. He was in Beirut. I think he was either working, something like that, and they just happened to meet each other in Lebanon. So they meet each other, they fall in love, they are together, and then they have Keanu. Now, they have Keanu, and then they have Keanu's other sister, and I think her name is Kim. They have Keanu, and then they have Kim. And then when Keanu is, I want to say, around 3 years old, his father split. Absolutely just abandoned them. He said he was going to the store one day to get a gallon of milk and just never came back. And of course, this really impacted Keanu and his sister quite a bit, and was really difficult for his mother as well. His mother seems to be just a really unlucky in love kind of lady. We'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, when Keanu is 3 years old, his father just kind of splits, says deuces, and he's just kind of out of there. After that, his mom just kind of tries to keep it together. His parents divorced in 1966 after his father decided to just kind of split ski. And then his mother moved them to Sydney, Australia. Now, they didn't stay in Australia for very long. Pretty quickly after that, she moved them to New York City. Now, they stayed in New York City for, not too long of a time, just long enough for her to find and fall in love with another man. She met and married Broadway and Hollywood director Paul Aaron. She married him in 1970. The new family packed their bags and moved to Toronto, Canada. Only a year later, they ended up divorced in 1971. So, this is guy number 2, husband number 2 for Patricia, dad number 2 for Keanu. Now, luckily for Keanu, Paul continued to be a pretty constant and stable person, just like a stable point of contact in Keanu's life, and actually later on ended up helping him quite a bit. Not long thereafter, she met hubby number 3. He was a man by the name of Robert Miller. He was a rock music producer. She met and married him in 1976. And again, this is another marriage that ended in divorce. However, this relationship lasted around 4 years and resulted in another child, Keanu's second sister. So Patricia has Keanu's second sister, Karina. They're together for 4 years and then sadly just cannot make it work, and they end up splitting again. They ended up splitting in 1980 after 4 years of marriage together. Keanu and his sisters, he has 3 of them, by the way. So they're all 3 younger sisters. His first sister, Kim, is a full sister. They have the same mother and the same father. Then you have Karina. They have the same mother, but then her father was Robert Miller. And then he has a third sister named Emma, and she is a half sister, but they share the same father, different mothers. And she grew up with his father. So he's not close to Emma at all, and really she's not a factor in his life whatsoever. However, Keanu is very, very close to his other two sisters, and I think a lot of it has to do with trauma bonding. They grew up and they kind of like moved all over the place until they got to Toronto, and then they stayed in Toronto pretty much for the rest of their young adult lives. But his mother was always in and out of the picture. They spent most of their time being raised by nannies. His mom was always, she was always busy out and doing things. I didn't find any information about the state of his relationship with his mother. However, the vibes that I got from any time he's like spoken about her, things like that, I don't think the relationship is fantastic. I don't think that she was super involved in their upbringing, and in a couple of interviews they made a point to say that him and his sisters were raised mostly by nannies. So there is that. Interpret it how you will. But very close to his sisters Kim and Karina. So they were raised by nannies. His mom is in and out of the picture, and basically he's just waiting till he's old enough till he can get out and kind of do his own thing. Of course, they're all going to school. They're doing what young adults do. And at this point, they're teenagers. They're in middle school, getting ready to go into high school. And Keanu is having a bunch of problems. He is having a very, very difficult time in school. And come to find out, again, it is a reoccurring theme in I want to say probably 80% of the people that I've spoken about on True Love Tuesday, especially creative types. It seems like they all have a dyslexia in common. And of course, Keanu was diagnosed as a young adult, a young teen, with dyslexia. And because of this, he had a very, very difficult time in school. And again, because of this, he ended up really looking towards sports, towards anything kind of physical, to kind of make up for the fact that his academic performance maybe wasn't as awesome as it could have been. Now, because of his dyslexia, and also I think there might have been a wee bit of ADHD mixed in there as well, he just had a really difficult time paying attention at school. And because of this, he would mouth off at the teachers. He had a hard time sitting still, things like that. And he went through quite a few different high schools, especially high schools. Seems like high school is when things really kind of ramped up for him, and he found it really difficult to control himself. Now, like I said, because of the dyslexia, he really kind of threw himself into sports, hockey in particular. Now, of course, they're living in Toronto, Canada, so of course it's going to be hockey. It's going to be ice hockey, and he was a goalkeeper for his school's team, and was really actually pretty good at it. One of his ambitions when he was younger was he wanted to become a goalkeeper for the Canadian Olympic ice hockey team, right? Well, when he was 15, he kind of found his love for acting and decided that as much as he loved hockey, he loved acting more, so he was going to devote himself to acting, but never lost his love for hockey and for physical activity, things like that. Fun fact, Keanu's name is actually the Hawaiian word for cool breeze over the mountain, which I absolutely love. So he is in school. He's having a really, really difficult time just kind of even getting by. He is finding it very difficult to survive high school, and eventually when he turns 17, he just says, I'm done. He gives up at that point, and he just is like, I'm ready to tackle something else. So he decides he's going to drop out of high school, and he does. He drops out at the age of 17, and then he really focuses on his acting career. Now, Paul, kind of helped him find a job where he could, make some money while he was kind of working on his acting career. And during this time, he's doing a bunch of different commercials. He is doing TV spots for the actual city of Toronto, all kinds of stuff. Again, just working continuously. Did not have difficulty breaking in to the acting sphere at all. Now, at 17, he decides to ask Paul if Paul can help him out with a green card because, of course, Keanu is not an American citizen. So in order for him to be able to live in the U.S., he's got to have a sponsor. Now, thankfully, like I said, Paul was going to come in handy a little bit later down the road. Thankfully, he had kept in touch with Paul throughout the years, and Paul had not a problem in the world sponsoring Keanu to come to America, try to break into the acting world. So that's what he does at 17. At 17, he starts working on getting his green card, and then 3 years later, he hops on a plane and he goes to America, and pretty much his Hollywood career kind of starts. Now, when it comes to Keanu's love life, like I said, he has been extremely popular with the ladies since as far back as he can remember. He has never had trouble with the opposite sex. However, instead of taking advantage of that, he is incredibly relationship driven. He is a serial monogamist. There were no rumors of flings or affairs. There were no rumors of secret hookups or one-night stands. When it comes to his relationships, he is either in a relationship or he is single. On top of that, he is an incredibly private person. He is very open, and we all pretty much know this by now. Personal details about Keanu Reeves are very few and far between. They're a pretty rare occurrence, actually. He stays out of the limelight unless he's stepped into it for a role or a movie. But on his personal time, that's exactly what it is. It's his personal time, and he doesn't feel the need to share it with anyone. Now, because he is a celebrity, most of his romances have kind of popped up on the radar, but even then, they're pretty few and far between. His first real Hollywood romance was with a woman by the name of Jill Schulen? I believe. He met her while he was while they were filming Babes in Toyland. Now, this is one of his very first Hollywood acting gigs. It's when he was first getting his name out there. And of course, if you have never seen Babes in Toyland, I love to watch it during Christmas. I just think it's that kind of movie, but it is so good. One of my very favorites from my childhood. He is an absolute baby in that movie, but it is so very good. But he met her. They were kind of they were each other's love interests in the movie, and it kind of carried over into real life. Absolutely adorable couple together, and they actually stayed together for a good long while. It was very much a committed long-term relationship. They met in 1986. Their relationship was more than just a fling. They stayed together for almost 3 years. Now, directly after this split, which is why I'm thinking that maybe it might have had something to do with the reason that they split up, but directly after their split, she actually went on to date Brad Pitt because she had met him on the set of Cutting Class. So there is that. Now, his next relationship was a little while later, and that was with Sofia Coppola. So they began dating after bumping into each other on the set of Bram Stoker's Dracula. So he filmed that movie with Winona Ryder, and that was a gigantic hit for him as well. That movie was being directed by Sophia's father, Francis Ford Coppola, and they must have been attracted to each other and hit it off initially, but their relationship did not last very long at all. Of course, there is no reason why. We probably will never know. But they only dated, it was much more of a fling. They only dated for a couple of months, and then they kind of called it quits. So there's that. And then after that, it was actually a pretty good long while until any kind of Keanu romance made the headlines again. He just kind of kept to himself and did his own thing. Fun fact, though, while filming Dracula, so they filmed Dracula, and Francis Ford Coppola wants it to be as real as possible, right? So in the movie, there is a scene where they actually get married, right? They stand in front of a Romanian priest and they get married and all that good stuff. Well, apparently there was a little bit of mix up. There was something got lost in communication, and apparently the priest actually married Winona and Keanu in real life. Thankfully, he was stopped just short of them actually like being legally married. But yeah, they were very, very close to actually being legally married to each other, which I thought was kind of crazy. Winona actually said that in an interview a couple of years later, and she was like, "We would have had no idea." Thankfully, somebody, the interpreter, someone caught what was actually going on and put a stop to it. But yeah, there was almost some Winona Ryder Keanu Reeves marriage scandal. Could you imagine? Next up, Keanu was very, very briefly linked to Amanda D. Cadenet. I do not know how to say her last name, but Miss Amanda, right? Supposedly, right? So this is kind of like the one and only rumor that really surfaced about Keanu and his love life. I think the press were just desperate for some kind of drama, including Keanu, because he was so big, especially back in like the 90s. He was just absolutely gigantic. The press basically just wanted to get his name in the papers somehow. So they kind of concocted this whole thing where he was fooling around with Amanda. However, this was most assuredly not the case, especially seeing as Amanda was 2 months pregnant at that time. She was also married. She was married to John Taylor, John Taylor of Duran Duran. Yeah, she was married to him. Now, not going to lie and say that there wasn't a connection and some kind of spark between them. Things were going pretty horribly in Amanda's marriage at that point in time, and they were just friends. Like, there was nothing romantic there. He was basically just a shoulder for her to cry on, that kind of thing. However, a little while later, the only time that their relationship got romantic at all was, I want to say, months later, years later, after she had divorced John. Yeah, after she had divorced John, they went out on one date. And it really didn't go anywhere, and they just kind of left it at that. Now, Amanda does say she wishes that there would have been more of a spark there because, of course, she was completely and totally into Keanu. But the spark just wasn't there. So they went on a date, and then they went their own separate ways. Now, after that, I think there was maybe one more relationship. So there was one more relationship, and this one took place from 2004 to 2006. And this was with a woman named Claire Forlani. And they enjoyed the better part of a 2-year relationship together. And again, things were going so well. Again, not very much is known about the relationship at all, other than it was a pretty long relationship, one of the longest ones he had in a good long while. It was going so well that, engagement rumors started to swirl, and of course, the tabloids started printing fake news, I guess, started printing about, their engagement rumors are swirling, and I'm not sure if it spooked Keanu but very soon after the engagement rumors kind of started, they broke up. So I don't know, it must have sparked something in her that she started talking about marriage, and Keanu just wasn't having it. Now, the one thing I will say about Keanu is through his entire career, he has never been married. I don't think he has ever proposed to anyone. I just don't think, how some people say, just not the marrying kind. I just don't think he's the marrying kind. He definitely is not a cheater. He is not a philanderer, things like that. But I just don't think marriage is really on his radar. And that could quite possibly be why a lot of his relationships don't make it much further than the 2-3 year mark. Because at that point, they're wanting a commitment. They're wanting to get married, things like that. And maybe it's just not something that Keanu is willing to do. Now, all of the relationships that I have just spoken about were just tiny blips on his love life radar. Now, when it comes to his love life, there have been two big loves that I really feel like he was all in, and he just they were the loves of his life. And one of them very sadly ended in such tragedy. It is genuinely heartbreaking. Keanu met the first big love of his life in 1998. He met a woman by the name of Jennifer Syme, and she was pretty much instantly his dream girl. She was an actress slash personal assistant. She was actually working for rocker Dave Navarro at the time, and that's how she met Keanu Reeves in the first place. They actually first crossed paths at a dinner party that was thrown for Keanu. Another fun fact, if you didn't know, Keanu actually has a rock band, and it is a band by the name of Dogstar. Keanu is a very avid dog lover, if you didn't know that either. And so his band, he has a rock band by the name of Dogstar. And of course, he's kind of like friends with Dave Navarro, people like that. So they kind of like mixed their circles, kind of intertwined, and they just kind of crossed paths one day. So they're at this dinner party, and of course, she is instantly attracted to him. He is instantly attracted to her. They hit it off really, really beautifully, and very, very shortly thereafter, they begin dating. Now, of course, they're not super open about it. There's really no information in the press, anything like that. Like, the relationship doesn't get leaked. So it is very, very possible that they were together for a very long time before we even knew about them. Jennifer's mother, a woman by the name of, I don't remember her first name. Her last name is St. John, though. She says that actually they didn't meet at that dinner party. They met almost 10 years before, and actually she was with her daughter when she met Keanu Reeves. But that's never been substantiated, so we really won't ever know the truth of the matter. But from what we can tell, they met at a dinner party for Keanu's band Dogstar, and they just kind of hit it off immediately. Now, at this point, Keanu is, I want to say he's 34. Yeah, Keanu is 34 years old at this point, and Jennifer is a little bit younger than him. She is 26 or 25 at this point in time, so she is just a little bit younger than him, but y'all, it was pretty much love at first sight. They met each other, and it was almost like an instant connection between the two of them. And I say this because he went further, like relationship-wise, with Jennifer than he has with anybody else. And the reason I say this is because he was with her and was like committed to her enough that she actually ended up getting pregnant. And like they were gonna have a baby together. Like, of course, there was no engagement rumors or anything like that, but she was indeed pregnant with his child. And they were gonna have this baby together. Keanu, Dave Navarro, Scott Coffey, Anthrax guitarist Scott Ian, and director David Lynch. They were all pallbearers. Jennifer's funeral was held on April 6th, so just a few days later, and it was absolutely devastating. It was genuinely devastating. Throughout the entire process, Keanu was visibly upset. He was visibly distraught, and just, you could tell he was kind of holding on by a thread. And throughout the entire service, he kept his arm very, very tightly around the shoulders of Jennifer's mother. Like, he didn't leave her mother's side through the entire process. And just how like, he had just got over, not even over yet, but they had just lost their daughter Ava, and then not even like a year later he ends up losing Jennifer as well. So just a lot of loss and a lot of grief to have to deal with in a very, very short amount of time. So her funeral was held in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, and she was laid to rest beside her daughter. They buried Jennifer beside Ava in the Los Angeles Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. And it's just absolutely, truly just absolutely devastating. It's just devastating. It took Keanu a very, very long time to deal with his pain and his grief at the loss of Jennifer and Ava, and it took him a very long time to even just dip a toe back into the romance pool at all whatsoever. I think it took him almost 3 years to even begin to look at anyone romantically again, and then even after that, I don't think he ever recovered. I don't think he ever truly recovered from the loss of both of his girls. And you could definitely tell. He said that he focused a lot of that pain and a lot of that anguish into his work. He basically just threw himself into his work, and it helped him cope. And then he got the role of John Wick, and John Wick is that role where he really, really focused a lot of his pain and a lot of his anger, and, you know, just at the injustice of it all. He focused a lot of those emotions into that character, because the character John Wick in the first movie, he actually loses his wife, and it becomes his driving force for everything that ensues thereafter. And he actually, there was a quote that he said in an interview about that, and I just thought it was very, very poignant. So I thought I would read it to you. It says, "I relate to his pain, and I don't think you ever really work through pain like that. Grief and loss, they don't ever go away." And I just... Oh, I'm doing my makeup, so I cannot cry, but the sadness that man must have absolutely he must have just wanted a hole to open up and swallow him just completely and totally. I feel so freaking bad for him. But he does make it through. He makes it through. He perseveres. Like I said, he throws himself into his work and his career. His career absolutely thrives. He is one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood to date. And as for romance, now, like I said, there were 2 big loves in Keanu Reeves' life, and one of them was Jennifer Syme, but the other one, she goes by Alexandra Grant, and she is a fairly new addition to his life, at least a fairly new public addition to his life. But he did indeed find love again, and Alexandra is probably one of the best things that ever happened to him. Alexandra Grant is a visual artist. She is very much an artsy-fartsy kind of person. She is... she's got that kind of free spirit kind of vibe, but she's also incredibly elegant and just well put together and sophisticated somehow. She's pretty much an illustrator. What she does is she bases her work. She does collaborative art. So what she does is she bases her art off of other people's writing. So she'll take something that somebody else has written, and she'll interpret it in her own way, and then she will paint something or sculpt something or something of that nature in reference to the writing. And this is kind of how her and Keanu kind of came together. Keanu, believe it or not, is actually a prolific writer. He very much enjoys journaling and writing, things like that. And they met at a dinner party. They met in 2009 at a dinner party. They hit it off almost instantly, but their relationship didn't start out romantic. It was not started with any kind of romantic intent, really. They just kind of met and kind of hit it off and struck up a sort of a friendship, right? And after they met, they decided, you know what? She finds out that Keanu really likes to write and kind of is her in just a little bit. And they decide to do a project together. And they do a book, basically, where it's written by Keanu and illustrated by Alexandra. And throughout this process, they, of course, spend quite a bit of time together, and inevitably, they end up falling in love. And pretty soon after meeting, they begin dating. And of course, they keep this completely and totally on the down low. They don't tell a single soul about it. And just kind of the rest is history. So they work on this project together, they finish it, and it was actually just in the beginning meant as a very private gift to Keanu, just to kind of help him through and just to do something nice for him, really, right? and she gifted it to him while they're at and of course, by the time the book is finished, they're in a relationship, and she gifts it to him, and they're kind of at a gathering with a couple of their friends, and their friends kind of see this book, and they're instantly just like, this is really, really good, and they urge Alexandra and Keanu to publish this book. Like, it's really, really good, and they think that, the world would benefit from having access to it. So this honestly prompts both Alexandra and Keanu to open up their own printing house. Like, I don't know how they got, I don't know how they got there, but that's how they got there. But they got there in the end. So they actually end up opening this joint venture together. They open up this publishing house called X Artists Publishing, and they really focus on collaborative pieces, things like that, very artistic books and novels, things like that, picture books, things like that. And the books that they release are very unusual, right? They're unusual and mainstream at the same time. They do a very unique kind of thing, right? And throughout this entire process, they are just falling more and more deeply in love with each other until finally they can't spend a single moment apart. They become pretty much inseparable. And throughout this entire time, of course, the public is completely and totally just clueless. At this point, and especially before Keanu had met Alexandra, Keanu was so lonely. He lived a very solitary life. When he wasn't at work, he was alone. It didn't really have anybody special in his life to spend time with or share things with. And honestly, I think that he was just waiting for the right person. And when he met Alexandra, he kind of thankfully realized that she was the right person. And then when they kind of linked up together, it seems like everything just kind of fell into place. And, love is meant to be when it can just be just easy like that. They just kind of fell together and never separated. Now, very recently, this happened in 2009, mind you. It is now 2023, right? So they finally decide that it's time to take their relationship public, and that is what they do. They actually end up showing up at a red carpet, and they're not really, there's no PDA, they're not really like hanging all over each other, things like that, but they kind of decide to bring it to the media slowly but surely, and they start kind of appearing at events together, kind of walking the red carpets together, and then all of a sudden you see Keanu and Alexandra walking the red carpet, and they're holding hands, and people are like, what's going on here? Because they're so used to Keanu being single, right? So at one red carpet, they're kind of holding hands, and at that point, it's still kind of like people are starting to kind of guess, but they're still not completely and totally sure, right? Well, Keanu decides to kind of take it up a notch, right? So eventually, they walk another red carpet together, but Keanu stops in the middle of this red carpet, and he plants a big old smooch on Alexandra, and that is kind of how they break it to the world that they are indeed an item, and they are indeed together. And that was pretty much the last little tidbit of information we got from them. After that, it's been basically radio silence. Now, Alexandra has done an interview or two where she has been asked about her relationship with Keanu and, kind of what's going on with that whole situation. But she's just as tight-lipped as he is. And, especially when people bring up the subject of marriage and engagements and things like that, y'all, they avoid that subject like the frickin' plague. Now, even though they don't want to share the nitty-gritty little details, I'm just happy that one of my very favorite actors in all of Hollywood isn't lonely anymore. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I do so hope that it was just as entertaining for you as it was for me. This is today's finished look. What do we think? Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. I will, of course, be posting finished pictures over on Instagram and Facebook. Again, the links will be in the description box. Guys, I thank you so very much for hanging out with me today. I always have a blast on True Love Tuesday. I love you so, so very much. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera telling you guys an epic love story. Hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.